Check. Hello, 1 2 3 4 5. Hey, Bill.
One second. Hello, check. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3. Check, check, check.
There's a lag delay, so we'll do
All
it.
right. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Hmm. Yeah, I've seen him before, so yeah, I know what he does. Yeah. So he'll be doing it live there, and then
Not
people.
live. We have donated. We got one of his paintings donated.
All right.
Okay, mics are hot, and it is straight up 8 a.m. And welcome once again. It's the K&B Podcast with the Morning Exiles. He's Bill Profita.
I am?
Yes, you
I
are.
love that guy.
Yeah, me too. And I'm Kevin Gallagher, and we're going to start. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this morning. We're going to talk about some charitable. Some of the picks, the National Federation of Independent Business, their picks for fall elections, and also who else we have?
Dining by Design. Debbie
Dining by
Grymes is
Design.
with us. And it's interesting story. I had our big old side by. Oh.
Yipes.
And so I called appliance distributors. They're great. And they said, look, we're tied up. GE Appliance Repair, we'll get you somebody. Guy came out, and the first thing he said is, why aren't you on the radio anymore? And the second thing he said is, do you know John Folse? And I said, yeah. He said, years and years ago when I was doing a appliance repair independently, he said, I used to trade repairing things in his kitchen at his restaurant for cooking lessons. He taught me how to cook.
There you go.
So there you are.
Barter is alive and well.
Well, we talk about food, and the Baton Rouge Epicurean Society is now in their 14th year, I think.
Yes.
14th year, yes. And they do a wonderful thing called Fete Rouge every year. It's coming up in just a matter of less than a week, I think.
By the way, did we introduce you all to the lovely Abby Hamilton?
I was just about to do that.
Good morning.
Joining us now to talk about Fete Rouge in Baton Rouge is Abby Hamilton. And every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's talk a little bit about Fete Rouge.
Oh, yeah. So Fete Rouge is next Friday, August 23rd, at La Berge in the Event Center. And we're going to have over 30 restaurants participating this year. And you'll be able to taste just an amazing array of food and about 200 different varieties of wine.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now, if you've not been to this is one ticket takes care of everything.
Correct.
And you go from table to table, and they have some of the very best wines that are available here. The nice thing about it is everything that you taste is available here in Baton Rouge, either
Yes.
at stores or in restaurants. And the chefs are out there knocking themselves out because it's a competition. And you
Yes.
get to vote on various categories of dishes and the chefs. So it is very interactive. And then if you manage to make it through and taste a whole bunch of the wines, you're going to look, and at the very front of the room, they have what's called the instant wine cellar. One of every bottle of wine will be raffled at the end of the night. You $10 a ticket. You go into the drum, and if your name is picked, you get all the wine, and they deliver. You don't have to make like 25 trips back to your car.
That's correct. Yeah, so we have so many different restaurants participating this year. We have Ben 77, we have Government Taco, we have the Francis Southern Table and Bar. Local chefs from the Capital Region. And we're really excited. We're selling so many tickets right now. The tickets are $75 a piece, all inclusive. You do have to be 21 and over. It is at the casino, and of course, because of the alcohol laws, you do need to be old enough to attend.
Now, as it gets tighter, I know there's a cutoff on the tickets, so
Yes.
people really do need to kind of, if they want to go,
Yes.
and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, need to get the tickets now.
Right. So you can go to www.bressbr.org, and you can click on Fete Rouge, and it takes you straight to the Eventbrite link to purchase tickets.
Now, it's in the big ballroom at La Berge.
Yes.
I don't want anybody to worry about getting all crowded. You know,
No, no.
there's plenty of circulation space.
This year is the O'Brien House. So they're taking care of the auction, and so you'll have a chance to bid on some select items that they've put together. So that should be really nice. We're going to have a fabulous DJ Otto from New Orleans coming in and providing entertainment. And like you said, we do have food judges and wine judges, but there is a special section where you have a chance to vote on your favorite dish, no matter what it is. Dessert, seafood, meat, whatever it is. And you'll be able to place your bet, and then someone will win the People's Choice Award from that.
Now, we've had someone ask, what's the dress code? Can I wear my cargo shorts and my T-shirt?
Bill says no.
I would say casual, yes. Jeans are certainly allowed. but,
Cocktail casual, though, right?
Cocktail casual, yeah.
Dressed like you gave it some thought.
A little bit.
Dress like you've been somewhere. We're not serving Ripple. We're not serving Ripple and BK.
No.
I personally have the cargo shorts police on duty that night, and that will not stand. So I just want you to know that. Just want you to know that. All right, tell everybody once again where to get the tickets. BRESBR.org.
The event is August 23rd. It begins at 7 o'clock.
Wonderful.
Why are there two BRs in your...
Where are they? What?
That's BRESBR.
Baton Rouge Epicurean Society, Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
From our Department of Redundancy Division.
I'm sorry, I'm just that kind of an ass. I notice these things.
What? See what that's really code for when you go to the restaurants and you say that, they mix you a double on your pre-dinner cocktail
That's what
Yes.
it is.
because it's the redundancy
So
division.
we gonna get to wine judge again this year?
Yes, I think so.
Love to.
Yes. Yes, lots to do there. It's so much fun, and it will sell out. We usually have about 1,100 people, and we have sold so many tickets already. It's really, the week before. We have a lot of social media marketing going on, so we're
Yeah, and I want to emphasize this is a cheap date. This is
Yeah.
this is dinner and drinks and dessert and lots of social time.
Exactly.
From the very best in our city, and it's $75 all
Yes.
in. So that's a good deal.
yes.
All right, BRESBR.org, and it's Baton Rouge Epicurean Society. If you're wondering what that BRES stands for, you got time to get a sitter. Abby, good to see you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Dawn Starns will be joining us with the handicaps from the National Federation of Independent Business, who they would like to see to get elected, and I'm sure that they've got some excellent choices that are favorable to small business. We haven't had a chance to talk since they're shooting at the Walmart deal, have we?
No, we haven't. Does anybody yet know what the hell actually happened at Walmart that day?
No, they don't. But I will tell you this: there are a lot of people that are using it as a punchline, and I guess I think that's just probably nervous stress. When it's an all's well that ends well and nobody was hurt, I think you can do that. But I do want to say, I've had a lot of private conversations about this, and aren't you glad to know that our emergency responders can get that many people there that quickly? They had that place completely surrounded and overwhelmed within 4 minutes. And isn't that good to know that if it's necessary, God forbid, they can do that?
It's reassuring. I still would like to know exactly what the heck went on.
I
We're
think
told the man
people
with a gun
panicked.
didn't. We're told the man with a gun didn't fire any shots.
No, he didn't.
But then they decided to arrest him anyway. I don't know what that was all about. As long as nobody was seriously hurt, I guess that's okay. Joining us right now is Dawn Starns. She is the state director of the National Federation of Independent Business, the NFIB.
Yay!
Good to see you again. How are you?
Good to see you. Doing well.
Going
Glad
to ask
be
you to
with
move in
guys.
just a little bit closer to
A
that
little
thing.
closer to that microphone there.
How's that?
There you go.
So, all the qualifying is done. The fields are some of the fields are not as large as we had expected.
Right.
But NFIB has come out with their
So for small business, as I've talked with you guys before, tax reform, tort reform, mandates on employers are all our key high priority areas, and making sure that people who are running for office understand how these affect small business. So it's been good to do that this summer. Still have more folks to talk with, and we'll probably make a second round of endorsements. But we want it to get out early after qualifying to support, one, the folks who are incumbents who have been with us this past term or the previous term. Our folks that were incumbents that were endorsed, with the exception of a couple, were all 80% or higher voting record with us. So we know where they stand on small business issues. We know they're with us. And
Okay. You want to get into the incumbents first?
sure.
All right. So, who do you like?
Well, first you have so many that have been reelected without opposition.
I
So
know.
that
Quite a number
has
just
been
here in the
huge.
capital area alone. And then,
So on our endorsement list, I think we endorsed a total of 64 people. I think 28 of them were reelected without opposition. So with that kind of being the case, that kind of puts them in an interesting position to go and help their friends. So we like that. We think that's very positive. So you have a lot of legislators, both in the House and the Senate, who are assessing other races and seeing where they can go and help and be helpful to their friends, and be sure that we hold on to seats that are pro-business, and be sure we support these candidates that are in real races.
Let's get to the top of the card first. Did you endorse for governor?
No, not yet.
Lieutenant governor, he's unopposed as of now, right?
Yes. So we have a proposal to endorse the lieutenant governor and the attorney general, and we don't go past that on the statewide electeds. We try to stick with the ones who do actually impact policy in the state. Even though we have a lot of statewide elected officials.
All right.
So-
Let's get to Baton Rouge. Council will be next year. I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we stay out of council races, so we do not lobby or get involved with the local government because there's too many of them here, as you all well know. So State legislature.
All right, let's
Senate.
talk. What do we got in our area here, and who have you endorsed? Let's start with the House of Representatives.
Well, we've got Paula Davis. Mm-hmm. She's been endorsed, and unfortunately, she had somebody qualify against her, but we thought she'd win with re-election. We've got Rick Edmonds, who's on our endorsed list.
Mm-hmm.
Rick is in a race against a couple of folks, but Rick is a solid vote for business. He's always been there for us, and he's always looking for ways to improve the state budget. Good guy to come back. Let's see, we've got Scott McKnight we've endorsed.
Mm-hmm.
He's running in an open seat in District 68. Scott's run before. He's talked about the issues. He understands them, and we feel like he's got a strong campaign, and we wanted to get behind him early. There are a lot of people in that field, so I'm sure it'll probably end up in a runoff, but we're going to be there to support him all the way.
All right. I think we have one more House district in Metro Baton Rouge.
Right in Baton Rouge, we have the District 70, the Freiburg, DeRisto, Adams, right? No, Adams is in 68, but we've got, that's another one of those wide open seats. We feel like that seat is we're going to wait and see what happens in the runoff.
Not gonna endorse yet on that one.
Not going to endorse just
All
yet.
right.
Gotcha.
Sometimes you got to wait and see how things start to play out.
What about the Senate?
So in the Senate, that is again, an open seat. This right here, this seat right in the center of town, District 16, is, being run. You've got Steve Carter, Franklin Foyle, and Beverly Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve and Franklin are both champions of small business. They've been with us 100% for a voting record, and we love them both.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to wait to see who gets in that runoff. And kind of go from there. But what we do know is, both are fiscally conservative and going to make, smart choices for both the state budget and for tax and tort reform.
All right. What about the Senate district where you've got Pat Smith versus Gary Chambers?
Cleo Fields.
Cleo Fields, yes.
Yeah, so we didn't get involved in that one. We're kind of waiting to see what happens. I imagine it'll be decided on October 12th, and then we'll go from there. But that's not a seat traditionally held by a conservative, and so we kind of looked at that and said, let's just wait and see what happens there.
Well, I would think the other seat you would be in the same boat as well, which is,
Same boat.
help me out, she's an incumbent. Why can't I remember?
Regina Barrow.
Very nice
Yes,
lady, Regina
and
Barrow.
Gary Chambers
And
is
Gary
running
Chambers,
against
yes.
her. Yes. So those are, what we had to do
So
was look at
no
seats.
endorsing that one?
No. We had,
I'm just amazed you're not jumping in behind Gary, man. Kidding.
we have to look at these seats and say where do we know we have are traditionally pro-business seats, and where do we want to kind of spend our resources, and so that's kind of how we approach it. So we don't get involved in every single race, and that's a good thing.
Now, no, go ahead, please.
What's the environment for small business like these days? I mean, going into this election cycle, going into a national election cycle next year, how bad off is it for the mom and pops
Well,
out there?
when we've talked about it before, one of the big things that always comes up, that goes back to the things that have been put on the Democratic platform to be things that they run on, and that's this kind of stuff that makes small business owners. So
It looks like it's going to be a wild race for parish president. Have you looked at that much?
I haven't looked at that one, but what happens is, the big business versus little business, the cycle is very symbiotic. So people, if there's big business out there growing, and there's a lot of things happening, and there's a lot of small business is going to spin off from that. So we talk about that in a very positive way. A lot of people try to demonize it or pit us against one another, but they're definitely, no, we're not out there lobbying for, taxes, incentives like like ITAP or any kind of tax incentive. We prefer a fair, flat rate that, doesn't create winners and losers. But at the end of the day, small business does, benefit when there's larger business around, because a lot of times you have companies spin off and are created because of it, or grow because of it.
Well, what other, in the immediate area or the general area, what other endorsements do you have for us?
So we've got, we covered most of them. We've got now, an Ascension and everywhere. We do have several that are around there. We've got,
Let's hear 'em.
we've got Tony Bacala.
Good.
Great guy over there. We're excited about his reelection without opposition. Valerie Hodges, she's in the central area.
Livingston.
Barry, and she thought she was going to have an opponent, and she doesn't, so that's wonderful. Barry Ivy, reelected without
Yeah,
opposition.
no opponent, yeah.
No opponent. We've got Chad Brown, who's just across the river. He's been a great, we don't agree all the time, but he's been a great advocate for somebody who will listen and understands the issues. That's, again, it goes back to being an important issue for us. Clay Shake Snyder across in Ascension, and Sherman Mack over in Livingston Parish, right there. So those are all right there. Again, we talked about Paula Davis, and and like I said, here in Baton Rouge, Scott McKnight, and then so that's pretty much everybody in Baton Rouge area, the capital region at least.
Now, other than Ascension, do we also have parish president in, I think Leighton Ricks is unopposed, right, in Livingston?
I haven't looked at that race, so I don't know. I hate to tell you, I don't know. but I
And
haven't
West
looked at it.
Baton Rouge, is the parish president there, Pee Wee Berthelot, is he unopposed?
Probably, because Pee Wee is great. He's a great ally for the capital region. He's certainly been the one who's been, in my previous role working with that delegation, he is champion for the LA 415 connector and talking about why we have to improve the situation over there. We've been talking about it for years, and hopefully we'll finally get something done here.
Well, and do you endorse in Secretary of State?
We didn't, but we hope to see Kyle, reelected. He's been doing some good things for business, trying to clean up, all the hoops that business has to jump through. He took on, this past session, he took on a bill called the Small Business Protection Act that Neil Reiser passed. And the idea was to, get more awareness out to small business owners based on what departments are passing for regulations, because they publish it in the register. Well, who reads the state register? Nobody. So, it's like they're pushing regulations in there and they don't know about it. So it's one of those things where, we needed to get more and more awareness. And so he kind of took that on as a role for his office, and we're really excited about that.
Let me ask you something about small business. While they deal in big numbers, most real estate people are small business. They're independent contractors.
Yes.
They work with small firms. And I'm hearing that even though interest rates remain very, very low, it is getting very, very difficult to sell residential real estate. That market is down.
Here in Baton
Have
Rouge,
you
I've
have
heard
y'all
that
looked at
too.
that at all?
I've heard that here in Baton Rouge, and it usually is an effect of you've got both the interest rates and then how the economy is going. It kind of goes to the heart of consumer confidence, and we've talked about our small business optimism index and how that has been at a 2-year high with the president, but over the summer, it dropped just a little, but it dropped. And it's indicative of when small business owners don't feel like they know exactly what's happening in DC, it's a trickle-down effect. It affects how they operate. And you can always tie it back to something that happened in DC. We've been doing that survey for, I think, 40 years, and it's every time there's a drop, you can usually pull it back to something that's going on in politics.
We have a viewer that says he might have missed it, but did you endorse in the Ascension Parish president race?
No.
No, not yet. You're waiting for a
Will
runoff?
not. Will not. We don't get involved in the local races.
Someone also asked about the sheriff's race, but that's not necessarily
Local.
business related. So
No, we won't get involved in, again, but kind of the local level politics. We stay out of that. All politics is local. What we try to focus on and put our resources to who the policymakers who are passing these laws who affect small business owners.
now,
at
what I
large
did
scale.
want to ask you about was insurance commissioner, because the state of our insurance does affect business, both
Yeah.
large and small.
Yeah.
Is there an endorse in that, or
We're not. We're not right now, and we've been looking at it. It's not a race that across it, because not every state has a commissioner of insurance.
Right.
So so I always like to bring it back that we're NFIB is a national organization, and I do run our Louisiana office, and it's our folks are always like, what are y'all doing down there? Why do y'all have so many statewide elected officials? Why are y'all what exactly goes on? It's kind of comical.
You got a lot of splaining to do.
Yeah, I've got a lot of explaining to do to my folks in other states and in DC.
That I had switched to a year and a half ago because they were known to beat anybody's rate and still provide excellent coverage. And I don't mind saying it. I'm very happy with them. It's Geico. But we got,
Wonderful.
I think, and everybody else got this or more at their renewal date, we got about a 6.5% increase
Yeah,
that I wasn't
Wow.
expecting.
yeah.
And we keep hearing about how they're trying to bring the cost of automobile insurance down, and I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing the inverse of it.
You are articulating a lot of what several new candidates who are running have articulated. They're frustrated because they don't understand why it's happening, and they're either experiencing it themselves or they're have been a lot of the reason they've decided to run for office. And I can only, equate it to what happened with health insurance. I mean, health insurance had a specific issue because of the ACA that was passed, and that had its effects. But at the end of the day, it goes back to public policy affecting how things affect the consumer, the everyday citizen. And because of our policies, we are affecting what our citizens have to pay. And look, there are a lot of things that go into insurance rates. Everybody likes to talk about all the different things that go into insurance rates. But when you look at Louisiana, we are an outlier. And every time we're an outlier, we end up on the bad list. And every time we end up on the bad list, it costs our people. So logic says follow the outlier list. Follow the place where we're not doing what everybody else is doing, and figure out where we can fix those things.
Well, and I just really don't think anybody, the average consumer, understands the quantum of this pass-through on everything you do.
Yeah.
They had a service call yesterday when they were great. They fixed me up, but I remember the last time I had a service call, it was about 20% less for the call. That just to come out, we charge you this much. I get
Right.
that. And that's got to be the difference in insurance rates.
Yeah.
That can't all be the difference in fuel.
Well,
You want to order somebody some flowers. Your delivery charge used to be $3.
Yeah.
Now it's $8.50 because they're operating 8 or 9 trucks that
Because
they've got to
fleet
insure.
insurance is killing 'em.
And they've got to
That's
insure them to
exactly
the
right.
max because of all the horrible drivers we have. You go to buy a Snickers bar at CVS, and instead of being a flat dollar, it's $1.05 because the diesel fuel and the insurance is up so much. And I'm wondering when independent business is going to say, we're done, we're going to sell it, we're going to move it, or we're just going to, we're going to do something else, because their consumers, the amount of spending their consumers are doing is way, way down.
Way down. Well, and you have a couple of things. I mean, you touched on so much of what we focus on. And when we look at reasons why prices are going up and all that, we know that it has an effect, again, on the policy. But if you look at a small business owner, just to open their doors every day, they have to be insured to the hilt before they even open their doors, much less once they open their doors, and depending on what line of business they're in. And then you have the other part that ties into it, which is, okay, so you have all this happening, you're not doing the things that make good policy to make good positive insurance rates. Then you have a terrible legal climate that you layer on top of it, so that if you do have a logo on your truck, a frivolous lawsuit is much more likely to happen to
Well,
you.
they'll drop right in front of you and hit their head on the fender just so they can sue you.
Right. So things like that do happen. And then on top of that, you have a jury trial threshold that's at $50,000. Again, an outlier. Nobody else in the country has it like this. And we have more elected judges than, let's just get real. Okay, so again, why we have so many elected officials, right? But you can argue elected or appointed regardless of what you want to argue, because I have a lot of friends that are judges, so I'm not down on that. But my point is that we have a lot of them.
That's a good disclaimer.
And, no, asterisks.
The views
But-
expressed here do not apply to you and you and you, but you, yeah.
But the point is, whether they're appointed or elected, they're out there, they're doing, look, and some judges, it's true, like when in the 19th JDC, you've got a lot of judges, we've got a lot of people, they've got the state's business, they can handle it. In a small rural area, maybe they couldn't handle more. But the fact of the matter is that in the rest of the country, the next highest jury trial threshold is 25,000. I mean, 25,000, we have it doubled. And so so when that's the jury trial threshold and you have that as the limit, that can put a small business owner out of business overnight, literally. Like, if they get a judgment that says $50,000 against them, either for a slip and fall, a fender bender, whatever it is, they're shutting their doors. They're not employing people anymore. They're not paying taxes. They're not doing what they do for the economy.
And the big ugly secret is their insurance company will say, no problem, we'll write the check to make it go away so you don't have to go to court. But the other half of that phrase that they never say, and we're going to take it out of your hide in your next premium.
Right.
Right.
Many have experienced premium increases after a situation, and that's just part of how insurance works. and everybody's accepted that. And look, maybe there's a bigger issue to capture with bigger insurance companies and figure out, where reform needs to happen there.
I think a bigger issue was illustrated in the news last night. All the local news carried it. It was a New Orleans story. And the Audubon Institute, who runs the Audubon Zoo,
Yes.
I'm sure they're not a member of NFIB, but they had 2 or 3 days in a row of vandals attacking cars and doing a hell of a lot of damage in their parking lots to
Wow.
these vehicles. They were tearing them up. If it was a family that was like on vacation and they had stuff inside, a car got stolen, and their executives saying, well, what are you going to do? It's Now, if people continue to go to his zoo and park in his parking lot after him giving the I don't give a rat's you-know-what about these people who came and spent, what's it cost to get into the Audubon Zoo now? $35, something like that?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Something in that
It's been a
ballpark.
long
But
time.
The,
50, 35.
the attitude
Yeah.
that I see from a
Different
lot of
attitude.
people that we don't care that our customers just got gigged.
You can't stay in business
Not
long
my
that
problem.
way. You cannot stay in business long that way. And small business owners know that. They're not, small business owners are not subsidized by the government. They don't have, these tax incentives. They don't on most situations. So again, they're not being, they're serious about how they go about handling their business and what they do.
Tell the governor you'll call him back, okay?
And that actually is a capital phone number. I don't know who it is.
I love it.
Yikes. Governor's race. Does NFIB want to go on record with anything in the governor's race? How do you like the campaigning so far?
Yeah, so we are watching it closely, have been engaged since earlier this year. We participated in an event with ABC that brought in Rasponi and Abraham to kind of start to talk about the issues. We were excited about the opportunity to talk with them because it gave our members an opportunity to start to get to know these candidates. At this point, we know that Congressman Abraham he's a Guardian Award winner with us in DC, so we know he's a strong small business vote. And Eddie Rasponi has built a small business, and so we know he's
Into quite a large business.
Into quite a large business, like most small businesses want. A lot of small businesses want to grow, maybe not as big as he, but and so we know that he is going to be. Congressman Abraham would be as well. So that's why, obviously, it's talking more about policy and understanding why we are where we are.
We'll be
with it.
talking about this one 2 years from now, God willing, if we're all still breathing, because it's a many-headed hydra. Dawn, always a pleasure to have you on. We're going to have you on before the runoffs, too, if you don't mind.
That'll be fun. It sounds wonderful.
Dawn
I always love
Starns.
to enjoy.
Always great to
enjoy
see
you
you.
guys.
State
Thank you.
Director of the National Federation, Federation of Independent
Federation.
Business.
You got it.
Federation, Foundation, it's one of those F
Don't
words,
say
NFIB.
but it's one of the good ones.
It's a good one. That's right.
Debbie
Thank you,
Grymes
guys.
joins us next. We're going to talk about an event that we just absolutely love because it's beautiful and it's fun. Dining by Design is coming up. This is the benefit that Chef John Folse heads up to benefit the Sister Dulce Maria Foundation. Chefs from all over the country come in, and florists and designers design each chef's table. It's just beautiful, and if you have a ticket, you're going to be at a chef's table, and they do a different menu, and it's just a wonderful thing. Debbie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
You've been working with this
Yeah.
for a while now.
Long time.
Long
Well,
time.
this is our 11th year.
How time flies.
I know. Started off at John Folse White Oaks Plantation in an outside tent, right at 300 people, and on to Crown Plaza, outgrew Crown Plaza, and now we're at LaVerge Ballroom.
Wow.
Yes, so it's quite an event.
It is. I mean, the pageantry of it. Events have become quite competitive here in Baton Rouge. That no doubt about that. And you have to have a big hook.
Yes.
And this is one of the best hooks I've ever seen. When you get these floral designers and they're designing from a table that is at normal table height, and it goes up 8-9 feet, and
Yes.
it's 30 feet long because it's a table for 20. It's pretty amazing.
Which they typically do in a range of about 3 to 4 hours. That's all these guys have. because setup does not start till 10 o'clock that morning, and they have to be out of the ballroom by 2, back for the event by 4:30. So it's what they can do in a few hours is amazing to me.
This reminds me of years gone by when we'd be rushing down to the River Center to decorate our Mardi Gras ball
Oh,
table.
yeah, exactly. Been there, done that.
And sometimes got
Understand.
very ambitious
Yes.
with that as well.
Yes.
We'd go up 6 feet
Yes.
higher than the tabletop. Was that the inspiration for this, or?
Right. Well, the competitiveness. All right. Let's face it. Everybody's got a competitive edge in here, and so these guys, once they see everybody else's table, they start thinking, "Oh,
I can do better than
I
that.
can do this. Let me do this." So, Bill, I think you've been there when we've had the live parrots. We've had
Live parrots.
yes, butterflies and birdcage. All of these different areas. So.
I was there the first year when it was in the tent, and this was a giant tent out on what had been the tennis courts out at White Oak Plantation. And it was really quite lovely. But the arrangement was so high, we had a lovely priest at our table, and he was giving a blessing, and the people on our side, we couldn't see him.
Yeah.
And the anonymous priest was over there
Right.
because the arrangement was so high, you couldn't see him. Let's talk about the chefs and the food. Who's
Yes.
coming this year?
Well, of course, we still have Chef O'Leary. What's wonderful about this, we have chefs from California, from Miami,
Chicago sometimes,
Chicago,
yeah.
and typically once they've done it, they all want to return, and they all say, "John, picks up that phone, count us in next year." People don't realize they fly in their own food. Chefs are incredibly particular about what they serve when they eat, so they fly in their own food. They have to have their own linen, china, so it's quite a show. And we've alleviated the not being able to talk against.
Well,
yeah,
I-
that was an issue.
Well,
yes.
I've been very, very fortunate to be there several times, and it's funny because you can see design evolving.
Yes.
Because it used to be emphasis on massive.
Yeah.
Now it's emphasis on architecture. So you've
Right.
got peek-throughs and you've
Right.
got things that are way above you on
Exactly.
these tables and
Yeah.
all that. It's a fun visual when you
Yes.
So
walk
the
in the
centerpiece
room.
becomes a canopy.
Yeah.
And it
in
has.
some tables, yeah.
It has.
That's wild.
Exactly.
Is there any unifying theme with the food, or are the chefs just allowed to pick and choose whatever they choose?
They pretty
to
much
serve
pick
their
what they
table?
want, and the chefs and the florists and designers coordinate. Okay, what are you going to be doing? So,
So
let
they
me
come
say,
up with
yeah.
cuisine that will match the
Exactly.
the,
Exactly.
the decoration. Wow.
Because as you were saying, Bill, I mean, this is a very competitive. Everybody has a wonderful cause. You want to be able to give to everyone. So you have to, like everything else, got to raise that bar so that everybody wants to come and see you.
Now, there's always a surprise entertainment. I will tell you that there is always a surprise entertainer or entertainers or group entertainment. I don't know who it's going to be. Even if I did, I wouldn't tell you because I want you to buy a ticket and be surprised
very
and
much.
enjoy a lovely dinner with the rest of us. But
I heard it was going to be the banana splits, but could be wrong.
the Go-Go's. But in the silent auction, they do something a little differently with Dining by Design. The silent auction will go up, 48 hours before the event?
Yes. Yes.
So you
48
can
hours.
actually start bidding before the event if you want.
Right. There are some people that cannot attend the event for whatever reason, and they still want to support the ministry. And so we've had people bidding from Paris. We've had people all over the country bidding on some of these items.
Now, the live auction, I want to make sure we fit this in. A painting by Michael Israel, very,
Yes.
very famous artist.
Yes.
This is, he was the one that they called Cirque du Soleil meets Picasso.
Right. Right.
He is wild, but very, very moving. There will be a large painting, 4 feet by 5 feet.
Right.
That will be in the live auction. Now, you're going to need to be there for that.
Yes.
We also have a handful of custom-made duck calls from Iowa Hunting Products, and yes, it's from Iowa, the city, not Iowa, the state.
Yeah.
These are hand-carved, and God, everybody knows a duck hunter.
This gentleman right here that's doing that is very interesting. A few years back, he became handicapped.
Brandon Knopf, yes.
Yes, and so he had never done anything like this, but was looking at a way that he could possibly still support himself. And that's come up, and look, I'm not into hunting. I'm not into, hunting ducks or anything like that, but he's got some beautiful pink marbleized duck calls that, it's very, very nice, very unique, very different.
We also have a sculpted, painted mixed media artwork from Lily Mudd, and this is Our Lady of Lourdes, and it is so beautifully three-dimensional.
Yes.
That's in the live auction.
Yes.
Wow.
Well,
And-
silent auction.
Oh, that's in the silent auction?
Silent auction,
Okay.
yes.
And then Adirondack chair and table set.
Yes.
Unfinished cypress, so you can leave it unfinished, just cover it with a little varnish if you want, or you can paint it. And these are the great big Adirondack chairs, and the table is integral to it, so
Right.
it's all one piece. Nice place to sit and have that glass of wine when the sun goes down.
Indeed.
Or if you're an early riser, have that coffee before the sun goes up and you get burned to death.
As our previous speaker was talking about small businesses, that's another thing. These are local, small business, handcrafted items. These are not things that have been bought through big box stores. These are things that people have made. And so, there again in itself, it goes a lot further than.
If you don't mind, Debbie, talk a little bit about the Mercedarian Prayer Center and Sister Dulce and what they do throughout the year and why this fundraiser is important.
Well, Sister Dulce has been given a gift, and that gift is healing mind, spirit, and body. And so that's exactly what we do. I'll tell you, in the month of May, we had over 600 people calling just trying to get in. As you all well know, cancer right now is rampant,
Yes.
all over the country. So that is one of the things that she does mainly work with is cancer patients. And she will tell you right in, it's not her. She is a catalyst. It's her body being used to pray on people through our Lord. And so it's a very special gift.
And one of the things of her mission, and John has been so helpful.
Yes.
I dare say, and it's not a political ad, but it's the truth. The candidate for governor, Eddie Risponi, has been very, very helpful.
Yes.
Is she wants to build a hospice for cancer patients on that beautiful piece of property. And the flood a few years ago basically wiped everything out, so they've started from
Right.
scratch. But that is being done, isn't it?
Right. Well, that's in a big scheme of things. That's probably in a 10-year project. Right now, one of the things that we're focusing on is a retreat center and getting some of the younger nuns throughout the community. I'm sure if you went to Catholic school, like I did back in the day, you had nuns as teachers.
Oh, yeah.
That's gone by the wayside now.
I
So
have
we're
the knuckle
getting
scars to prove it.
Yes, exactly.
I know a lot of
Hopefully-
people tell you they'd rather have the nuns than the brothers.
I tell you. Well, back then the nuns were pretty tough. So these nuns are very sweet. So we're going to be bringing those guys in, so we'll have to house them. So it's a lot of exciting things. The retreat center is going to open its doors to anybody that wants to have a retreat. We don't have a facility like that near.
So let's get to some nuts and bolts now.
Okay.
It is going to be, are we still having it at Crown Plaza this year?
No, it's at LaBerge Ballroom.
Oh, at LaBerge Ballroom.
Right.
Very nice.
Right.
All right.
Soon everything will be at LaBerge Ball.
Well, they do a very nice job.
They
do a great
do.
job, and it's
They
a big,
really
wide
do.
open space.
and,
do.
And tickets are?
We have a few tickets available, and they can go online to purchase those. www. Springs Prayer Center. Also, the prelude to Dining by Design is Chillin' and Grillin'. Now, if you can't make it to the big dress-up event, you always can come to the very casual event at White Oaks.
Now, we talked about this, you and me and Kevin, last year.
Yes.
And I think we actually got John to kind of talk about this a little bit too. But grilling and chilling is kind of like Bobby Flay on steroids outside.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what, you got a whole bunch of these chefs just having fun, putting meat on grills and handing it to you
Yes,
to taste.
exactly. I mean, it's probably,
Bless you.
I can't even count the amount of menus that go on the property, but it's a very casual event. And so, of course, the tickets are $50. We still have a few open spaces, but not many. And it's fun. You can come in your shorts, your shirts. It's a lot more casual than Dining by Design.
Well, and again, it's all these chefs, they're going to cook very, very formally on Sunday.
Right.
This is going to be, what is it, 4 courses?
Right. We're talking grits and griots and
this
pork
is
loin.
pork
and-
loin, pulled pork,
Right.
slow cooked braised ribs, things
Right.
like that.
White chocolate bread pudding.
Yeah, they're just
White
going to be
chocolate
having
bread
fun.
pudding.
Well, actually, we're going to be having fun.
Yes, yeah. So.
Well, give everybody the URL to go and get the few tickets that are left. And I want to tell you, folks, the tickets are tiered. I guess by this point, some of the more expensive tickets are probably gone, which is good for you. If this is your first experience, you can get one of the lesser
Right.
priced tickets. The meal's going to be just as good.
Yeah, and with John Foles.
Yeah, it's just not going to be as big a table.
Right. John Foles prepares what we call the bronze level.
Mm-hmm.
Those tickets are $250. And so I did have the opportunity to have a sneak peek of one of the soups, and it's a crab meat and artichoke soup.
Oh, my.
And I tell you what, oh my gosh, I walked into the room and it was just fabulous.
Yeah, and you do get that personal care when you're at one of
Yeah.
the tables John prepares, because
Yeah.
John knows everybody at these tables, and
Right.
he wants to make sure you're having a good time.
Yes. Well, as you talked about the entertainment, I'm not going to say what it is, but I will tell you everybody will be standing up in that room, joining into that entertainment. It's going to be fabulous. It really is. It's exciting.
I'm thinking Kevin in a Speedo.
No, she said standing up. She didn't say running away.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Let me out. Let me out.
Well, our best to John and to Michelle and to Sister and everybody. It's always a fun event. Again, go to Cypress Springs Mercedarian Prayer Center. You can find out all about it. And I would think if you Google Dining by Design
Yes.
2019,
Yes.
Yes.
it will also give you a pathway to your tickets.
Right. Also, too, on that site, you can go to diningbydesignbr.com, and that you can register and start bidding on these
Okay,
items.
diningbydesignbr.org.
Is that what they call that?
Yeah.
Well, it's also called the trash in my driveway.
I keep asking you to bring it to me because I do surveys for AAA on that. But anyway,
The thing is, to me, and apparently to a lot of other people, what it represents is trash in your yard or your driveway that you've got to deal with. I'm sorry if print ads are not, the money venue that they once were for print ad media. The truth is about 8 out of 10 people pick that thing up and it goes from the front lawn to the trash can or the recycle bin. And in my case, it does the same. Now, I have called over the years that I've lived at my address in Shenandoah. I have called them and given them my address and said, please instruct the person throwing these things to miss my driveway. I don't want it. And twice they've complied, but every time that there's apparently a change in delivery man, I wind up with the trash in the driveway. Now, this is just as annoying to me as if a kid is riding by and throwing a daiquiri cup or whatever. It's trash that I've got to pick up out of my driveway, out of my yard. Thanks for coming, you all. And I got to deal with it, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Now, I'm curious, how they would feel if I saved these things up for, say, 6 months and then dumped them in their front yard. Or what about if, say, 1,500, 2,000 citizens decided to gather together and press charges for littering?
well, I think they're exempt from the littering law on that.
Why?
Well, simply because it is not litter. It's advertising material that is delivered. But
I beg to differ.
I do think if you tell them don't throw this in my driveway, they should not throw it in your driveway.
I've done that like 3 times. But like I said, I think when they get a change and there's a new driver, they don't have a do not deliver list or whatever, and I wind up getting them. And, sometimes they're sopping wet, they're in the worst possible condition, and
It's so funny. It's so funny to talk about these drivers and these route drivers who deliver the regular paper. They have a very long day and a very early day. And I knew the route driver who was delivering in our area, and I would see him when I would be leaving for our old radio show in the wee small hours of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
He had a white Chevy, no windows van that he used to throw.
heavy panel van.
Yeah. And
Nothing suspicious there.
well, like I said, I knew the guy, and in fact, we interviewed him once about this that duck hunting benefit they have for a charity many years ago. Remember?
Okay, yeah.
And so one morning, I'm getting ready to go to the station to meet up with you and do our radio program, and I see this small, dark sedan driving very slowly without any headlights. And so I went around the block, and I came back, and it was still driving slowly without any headlights.
At that hour of the morning, I'd be really suspicious.
I called the sheriff's department. Well, as it happened, there was a sheriff's deputy right there on Nicholson.
Mhm.
He came in, and I just followed him. I want to see what it was. And he lit him up, and this guy stopped and got out. And don't you know, it was the root man. His van was broken, so he had all of his papers that he was supposed to throw packed into his Toyota Camry,
Okay.
and he was not putting the lights because he noticed that as he was getting up in driveways to throw them, his lights were hitting people in their windows. And didn't
He
want
was
to
afraid of
disturb
disturbing them while they were asleep.
them. Yeah.
I'm sorry, lights on, buddy.
I had to end up vouching for him for the sheriff. I said, yeah, I'm the one who called you, but
So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about the ad paper. I guess there's nothing that can be done about that. I mean, I'm already not buying the papers. I guess I voted with my feet already.
Yeah.
But that just annoys me. This movie that's out, everybody's talking about The Hunt.
The Hunt.
It's. I noticed the ads have been pulled. I was seeing ads for a little while, but then they've been pulled.
I've heard that the whole release has been pulled for a while.
Allegedly, this is a movie that the plot of the movie is that elite progressives, that's Democrats with deep pockets, pay to hunt people, and the people are your MAGA hat wearing, pro-Trumpers. This is what I'm told. And everybody is getting upset about that, getting all pee-peed up about it. But as usual, I'm reminded of The Last Temptation of Christ or the Monty Python's The Life of Brian. Usually when we get all wee-weed up about a movie that we haven't seen, we wind up looking like idiots when we finally do see it.
Well, and I think that it was not going to be a big success simply because it was so blatantly presented as an obvious, rather than an entertainment medium, a political medium.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so I've heard that they're delaying the release indefinitely, which means we'll probably never see it.
You've seen these Manhunt Man movies before,
Yes,
right? You've seen
yes.
The Most Dangerous Game, The Naked Prey. What do they all have in common? Usually the hunter becomes the hunted and the prey becomes the victor at the end of the film. So I just wouldn't get too worried about this one. After all, just like with Chucky or Godzilla or the Avengers, it's only a movie. It's only a movie.
If you don't mind, since we're kind of in this area, this is something that has been bothering me for quite some time. Have you noticed that there is an absolute, it's almost 95% tendency to when there is a dramatic presentation about a conspiracy that is going to harm large numbers of people, that it is always our intelligence service that is the bad guys. It is always our FBI that is the bad guys.
Or the CIA.
Or the CIA. Or our military.
But it's never a foreign power. It's always the U.S. government that's
And
the
I mean,
bad guys.
There are people who, see these movies and get to think, maybe we can't trust the FBI. Maybe we can't trust our own military. I find this very off-putting, and I'm always wondering why so many writers and producers that think that this is a viable storyline that's got some legs. Because you really can't ever do a sequel, even if it's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because you end up, taking out the senator who was pulling the strings on the director of the FBI or the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
They always end up with their head splattered up against the wall.
It's usually Scott Glenn. He usually takes himself out.
Yeah. Ned Beatty got taken out by Marky Mark in the movie.
That was a
Sniper.
good movie.
Yeah, it was a good
Sniper
movie.
was a good movie. Not a real good series, but a good movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I've always wondered why they want to do this. Why they want to take an institution, particularly in a time of global terrorism.
We can insult our own country, but if we made a movie where the bad guys were, say, French intelligence, then the French should be all upset.
Hey, Clancy wrote, 15 books and had like 9 movies where the bad guy was always a foreign power.
Mm-hmm. But look at some of the Clancy books and how they themselves were whitewashed slightly for a film audience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of Sum of All Fears, the one where Ben Affleck played
Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan role. And the Sum of All Fears, that was straight up Islamic terrorism.
Yeah.
But for the movie, they made it a splinter group of neo-Nazis
Yeah.
who wanted to throw the U.S. into a war with the Middle East and then create chaos wherein they could rise up
Yeah.
again in Europe. And rather than so, the bad guys were only superficially Islamics, whereas in the novel, it was Islamic terrorists.
But I find it so interesting that we seem to have lost our way when it comes to being dramatic. And our friend, our colleague Richard Condon, and I haven't heard the rant, but went on a complete rant about our buddy Franz Borghardt, who's a defense
Yeah,
attorney.
I'd love to hear it. Somebody needs to lift that off and put it on Facebook.
And I don't understand why someone who considers himself, and I'll take him as his word, as a law and order, Constitution-loving, red-blooded American citizen, wants to take apart an important part of our Constitution, which is the right to counsel.
You know, Franz is only the first of several defense lawyers that I've ever. A defense. And
Well, no, it's not you deserve it. You're entitled to it.
yeah,
And
well,
that's what's
deserve
more
entitled.
important.
You're entitled to have someone represent you in a court of law, and it may not be a tasteful job for some people, but you know, I mean, even the worst of us, you know, are entitled to having a lawyer represent them in a court.
Well, it's the bedrock of our Constitution. And here's the thing a lot of people don't get. You know, I saw some of the comments on the rant about, well, don't you feel bad when you get somebody off? No attorney gets somebody off. What happens if everybody's done their job right is the jury said the prosecution did not present compelling enough evidence under the law to convict this person. Nobody is ever found innocent, by the way, in a court of law. They are found not guilty of the charges that were brought against them.
Right.
You don't deserve a defense, and deserve is a completely different thing because deserve is subjective. You are entitled to a defense
Well,
under our Constitution.
was Richard's rant a problem with Franz being a defense attorney or with his client?
I haven't heard the entire rant, so I don't know. But you know what? I worry whenever there are rants of this type by anybody, whether they're calling into a radio or television show, or they're on radio or TV, or they're posting, that they say, I'm an American and I don't like crime and I want to protect us, but I don't want this person to have a lawyer represent them.
The Bill of Rights is a tricky thing, though, isn't it?
Well, it shouldn't be. It's really pretty simple. It's not heavy reading.
Yeah.
You know, a fourth grader can kind of read all the words and understand them.
Mm-hmm.
But the misconception, and again, it's just like somebody was in here talking about prosecuting. And I said, you know, the district attorney, duly elected, their job is not simply to prosecute. Their job is to seek justice.
Mm-hmm.
So when they find that there is not enough evidence to get a conviction, what they are supposed to do is seek dismissal of charges.
Mm-hmm.
And a defense attorney functions to make sure that your trial is fair and that the evidence presented is legitimate and unbiased. You know, this, you're getting off somebody and then they'll kill somebody. Well, the attorney doesn't get them off. Either the evidence wasn't there or the prosecution didn't do a good enough job. If you want to rant about somebody, rant about prosecutors who don't get convictions if you think that the evidence supported one.
Well, I can't think of one. You know, the O.J. trial comes to mind, but I still think if you really break that one down, the prosecution had a lousy case.
They had a terrible case.
Full of contaminated evidence.
And they didn't do a real good job of picking a good, impartial jury.
Mm-hmm.
That case was decided probably about 20 seconds after Johnny Cochran did the opening argument.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, it is what it is. But I just like to say, for the record, Franz Borghardt is a good man. He is a good man.
Right,
And,
we had John
sometimes
McClendon
good
in
men
here.
take on bad people as clients. That's what defense attorneys do.
Well, you know, I mean, here's the whole thing. There are people that would say, oh, well, you know, you got AIDS from intravenous drug use. We shouldn't be spending any money taking care of you. Well, you know, there are physicians, men and women, highly trained, that do nothing but take care of AIDS patients.
We've got a link to the rant now. We'll have to watch it after the program's over.
Yeah.
And program's
And
over.
the program's over.
So we're going to watch it right now. Listen, thanks very much for being with us on Friday. Congressman Garrett Graves will be here with us at La Divina on Perkins Road. He's going to be talking about flood mitigation. He's going to be talking about, the latest developments with the duplication of benefits. A lot of people very unhappy with what HUD has turned up for them as a new condition. And there's just a lot of questions to ask the congressman.
And speaking of prosecutors, a recently leave of absence prosecutor from the 19th JDC, Will Jordan, is running for judge. That's why he took a leave of absence from the DA's office. He is a new face in the political scene, and he's going to join us.
Marvelous. So something to look forward to. Friday morning, 8 a.m. We'll be right here for you from La Divina. It's the Morning
And
Exiles.
where can they find the podcast now?
Go to Facebook and search for Kevin G. Gallagher. You'll find it on my Facebook page, and you'll also find it on YouTube. It's called the K&B Podcast.
Need to use the ampersand.
Yep.
If you don't know what the ampersand means, you don't need to
It's
listen.
that thing right there between the K
No, you
and
don't.
the B.
If you don't know what that is, you don't need to listen. Trust me on this one.
Ampersand. What the
What,
hell
what,
is
what,
that?
is that one of them?
That's that N thing.
Is that
N.
one of them illegal alien type of language things?
Till Friday morning, take care. God bless.
Bye.